Thank you so much for joining me for this yoga session. This session might be a little bit more intense, um, but of course, you can always modify for your level. Um, Hopefully, I'll call that out for you during the practice. I think I do a pretty good job of that, helping you show how, like coming in at that moderate level and then showing how you can go up or go down, whatever would be best for your level. You've got all the things you need to support you. You've got a yoga mat, or at least as much room as a yoga mat, yoga blocks to help with support, a blanket for comfort and cushion, something to drink. And when you have all those things, you can settle in on your breath, letting your eyes close, coming to that place of awareness, really taking the time to unhook from all that's going on in the world and just be with your breath and yourself right here, right now. That in itself is a worthy endeavor. You're not wasting time. You're not doing something that isn't worth it. If you are practicing, finding that space between your thoughts, seeking to build that compassion for yourself and for others, that is a very worthy endeavor. And it all starts with paying attention to your breath, letting the breath come in and out of your body. Breathing however feels comfortable, whether it be through your nose or your mouth or a combination of your nose and mouth. Let the breath get as full and deep as feels good. Remember, when you find yourself thinking about your to-do list or something you have to do or you're looking forward to or something in your past, it is exactly when you're doing yoga right. So recognize, congratulate yourself, and then bring yourself back to the breath. Stay with that awareness of your deep, full inhale and exhale. And as you inhale, start to do that 3-part yoga breath where you fill up the lower third of your lungs, then the middle third, then the upper. And then the exhale happens and you release the upper, then the middle, then the lower. And that breath gets as full and deep as feels good. And if you want your body to get involved, more of your body, as you fill up that lower third of your lungs, press your navel into the space in front of you. And then when that breath goes into the middle third, feel those ribs move up and apart. And the breath goes into the upper third, your heart moves up in your chest. And then exhale, heart and chest relax. Then the ribs come back together. And then at the end of the exhale, you pull that navel back up into your body. And then the inhale happens again, and you're filling up navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Stay in that awareness of your body, pressing down into the mat below you. You can start to activate your legs, tilt your pelvis down, lift that front body, press your knees away, flex your feet. Remember, if your feet are tingly, your feet are starting to feel uncomfortable, make sure that you move so you're not uncomfortable. And then feel that rooting down from within sensation as you press down into your mat. And then on your next exhale, lift yourself up out of that place of support. So you are rising from that rooted spot and you are stretching yourself into that space around you that you are meant to take up. So think about engagement, or actively lift that heart, pull those blades down, feel that gentle pressure on the tops of your shoulders as you lengthen the crown of your head up to the sky, so it makes that space longer between your ears and the tops of your shoulders. Still, you're breathing in full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. And remember, you don't have to sit away from a wall. You can sit up against a wall if that helps to support you. When I first started doing yoga, it took a lot of, well, I didn't feel good for a long time until I built up those muscles on my side body. So make sure that you are meeting yourself where you're at. If you haven't been doing yoga very long, don't be getting down on yourself. Keep doing it. And then once you feel complete with the full deep breaths, if you're sitting on something, you can bring yourself off just so you are on steady ground. We're going to bend those knees, and we're going to start with that windshield wiper move, back and forth. I'm lifted up off those limbs. I'm not putting really any weight. Even though my arms are back there, my elbows are supported. I'm not putting all my weight on my hands. I'm keeping my heart lifted as I drop side to side. Eventually you're going to be done with the movement. I'm going to come off this and bring my blanket so it is down, so it's big enough to have my body as well as my legs, because what we're going to do is you're going to be in your space with those knees bent, and we're going to come over to, and the way I'm describing this is and you can go whatever way feels good. Let me take my socks off too, that might be good. You're dropping the knees to the left, and you are not stacking the right, so you're going to the left hand is on the floor. You can even have a block in order to help keep you propped. I've got my feet flexed, I've got my right knee and my left foot not on top of each other. That right hand is on my hip, and I'm going to just start a little gentle rocking here. I'm just lifting that, and this, like I said, you don't have to have the block. So you're just starting to do just some gentle rocking, starting to get the body to wake up. If it doesn't feel comfortable to have your legs like as close in as mine, you can have them kind of far out, and you're still doing that gentle rocking, starting to get that hip back into, just trying to open it up. And then you're going to gently press into that left arm. That right arm is going to reach, keeping that hand down really low. So bring that right hand by that right foot, and then it's like you have like a little car, and you are zooming that car along the floor. And remember to keep your legs active so you're nice and supported. Now you're going to take that, let's take that right arm and let's bring it up shoulder height. So it's like you've got a plane and you are flying that plane. I'm not putting all my weight on my limbs. I'm staying lifted and then letting that arm reach across, and then I get this wonderful stretch down my back. All right, so take your plane and land it down by your right foot. Now this sometimes takes us some maneuvering. This is why I want to make sure you've got comfort. I've got my knees on the blanket. I'm also going to use the block to help with lift. I'm going to take that right hand and I'm going to do like a rocket a few times. Just reach straight or kind of to the side. And then if it feels good to you, you can lift up and come back down. And you also might need to move your legs. So I actually want to move a little bit, so that's okay. And then after a few times reaching up, this is where you got to be really careful and you got to pay attention, and it helps to, you can reach up and come to a place of real stretch here. So you've got that left hand right underneath that left shoulder. You've got that left knee right underneath that left hip. That right leg is extended. You are lifting and stretching. If you do not feel like doing this, if you don't want to reach this much into this great big stretch, then don't do it. Inhaling and exhaling. Imagine there's an imaginary wall behind you and in front of you, and that's keeping you upright so you're not rolling forward or back. And then let yourself release down to your behind to notice how you feel after that stretch. All on that one side, and then back with the knees side to side, and then I'm going to let the knees come to the right. So now I've got the right foot and the left knee not stacked on top of each other. They're right next to each other. I'm going to bring my block a little bit closer. I'm always being careful of my joints. I'm going to start with my left hand on my left hip, and I've got my feet flexed, and I'm pressing down with my legs in order to have that nice support. But I'm going to start with that gentle little hip. And if this hurts anywhere, if your knees do not like this, of course, never put yourself through any sort of pain. I want you to learn the difference and honor, the real pain if it's painful, but then also notice that some intensity, stretching does feel, it's a lot, right? It can feel intense. So learn the difference between pain and then just like that hurts so good, and you know the difference, right? All right, after a few of those rocks, you're going to start with that stretch. So this not only is opening the hips, it's getting that nice stretch down your back. You're keeping that girdle engaged. You're not putting all the weight on your limbs. Inhaling and exhaling. And then bring that arm up shoulder height. Stretch it across. And then let that plane land down, that left hand, that plane lands down by that left foot, and then do a few rocket chips. And if you just want to stay at this level right here, this is going to be a great stretch, right? You can just pause right here. But if you want the lift and you're paying attention to your knees, you're trying to line everything up, you're not trying to hurt yourself. And sometimes you might need to do a little maneuvering. Look how I'm not coming up in this great big fell swoop. I'm getting things lined up and then going into the great big stretch, making sure that my body is underneath me to support me, and then reaching that arm up into the air, that imaginary wall right in front of me, right behind me to keep me upright. Inhale and exhale, and then let yourself come down onto those behinds again, and let yourself drop your knees side to side. And then after a few times of that, just pause, notice how you feel. If you need to get a drink of water, make sure that you are taking care of yourself. I'm breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Stay with your breath. And then let's come onto the back and let's do some bridges early so we take advantage of having more energy. It really does depend. If you do a lot, like if we went through like all the Warrior series, I don't know if you noticed this, and then we do bridges towards the end, don't your legs feel like totally spent? Mine do sometimes. So doing them a little bit early, we'll be able to, you don't have to do your most, so come onto your back, and before you come into the bridge, I want you to really just spread yourself wide. Doing whatever move feels good to you, whether it be the rock or the circle, or maybe you want to do just the windshield wiper here. I do have a little rolled up blanket, not very high rolled up, just to pull my neck long. That helps to keep, for me at least, it helps to keep my neck nice and long, and I remember to keep my chin tucked so that I always have that neck in that supported place. You do whatever feels good to you. Maybe elevating would not feel good to you. And so, play around with that. See what feels good. All right. After a few of the rocks, the circles, the windshield wipers, whatever feels good to you, you're going to bring your feet flat to the floor. Before we go into the bridge, though, I want you to play around with finding that pelvic clock. So you're trying to get that pelvic girdle into that same plane. So you're trying to get the pubic bone and the navel to be in that same, they're level. Like you could put a bowl of water in between that. And I really have to pull down and really get into, really pull down framework and muscle to get that pelvis into that place. You might not have to do that much work, but I have to do a lot of work. And once I learned how to do that and started working on that, it is the way to go to do that because I know my body is supported. All right, hands down by your sides. You're trying to spread your collarbone apart, and you're pressing those shoulder blades into the mat. You're engaging those balls, not those toes, keeping that pelvic nice and even as you lift. You're going to lower and lift a few times. You're trying to keep those legs active. They're only hip distance apart. They're not falling in. They're not falling out. Inhaling and exhaling a couple more times. Pause up into wherever level you would like. Breathing full and deep. Really try to pull that tail down. Try to keep that clock in that same plane. So you're always trying to keep the 12 and the 6 even and about the same height. So try to keep your awareness there, staying with that awareness of that 12 and 6, keeping it in the same place as you lower down. And then once you get all the way down, you can relax and you can start to rock, circle. Sometimes happy baby feels really good after doing bridges. It really is up to you. If you're doing happy baby, you're not clasping hard, you're not pulling hard on your legs. If you can't reach your feet, you're gently holding behind your knees. Inhale and exhale. Try not to lift your bum up off the floor. All right, back with yourself into that bridge position. Keep pulling that tail down so you get that pelvis, that 12 and that 6 in that place of support. Pop that right ankle on that left knee, hands down by your sides. Make sure that left foot is right where it supports you, and then press in to that left leg as you lift your hips. Try to keep your clock parallel. Keep opening that right knee. Inhale and exhale, lower down. You're going to bring that right foot down next to the left, and you're going to set up for that same thing, other side. That one-legged, kind of like a pigeon bridge. You might not get very high. I don't really think I get very high, but I'm working my whole body, and so that's what really matters. It doesn't matter how high it gets. It's that you are working the body. Inhaling and exhaling, letting yourself move however feels good. Rock, circle. Eventually you're going to pause with that right knee hugged in. Let that left leg extend down your mat. You're pressing through both heels. You've got your shoulders out of your ears. Inhaling and exhaling. Maybe that belly is coming right up against that right thigh. All right, only if it feels good to you on your next exhale do I want you to roll up and pop that left heel up off the floor. If you want to bring that left heel down and just have the head rolled up, or if you want to keep the head down and just have the heel up, or you can decide, nope, I just want to be here in this active half wind reliever, which is already exerting so much energy and already doing so much. If you do have your head raised, try not to strain your neck. You're not pulling your nose towards your knee. In fact, you're trying to pull your knee towards your right knee towards your right ear, scraping the inside of your nose. All right, eventually you're going to come down. You're going to let go of that right leg. You're going to take that little mini Shavasana. Notice how you feel. And then start to move. Rock, circle, whatever feels good to get those bodies and the blood flowing. And then the strengthening, the stretching. You're going to hug that left leg in. Same thing, other side. You're in that half wind reliever. All you have to do, if the only energy you want to expend is just coming into that active half wind reliever with your head and your heel down. Only you get to decide, only you decide if you want to come into more of an even more active pose. Remember, don't strain. Only do what feels good to you. Breathing full and deep. We are going to hold here for a couple more breaths. And it doesn't matter if you come in and out. Stay with the breath. And then eventually you are going to come down. You're going to release totally. Just take that little mini teaser relaxation and then start to move. Rock, circle, windshield wiper. All right, we're going to stay on our back for just one more move. This is actually a Pilates move. I'm stealing it. Pilates wants me to steal it. You're going to keep those tails heavy and then bring those feet up to the sky. Your knees can stay really bent, and in fact, they can be super bent where you have your knees right above. You always want to have your knees right above your hips. So whether you press those heels up or press those heels to the wall in front of you is totally up to you. Your hands are going to be down by your sides, and you're going to be spreading that collarbone apart, breathing full and deep. Take an inhale, exhale, roll up. Hands can lift. Remember, those legs, no matter what way you're doing, you're pressing through those heels. I just want you to pat the water. Now, if lifting your head is too much, which it can be, bring yourself down and then lift yourself up. Keep that chin tucked. Keep patting that imaginary water. Inhale and exhale. These typically they're called hundreds. I'm not even counting. We're just doing this for a few times. This is really working that core. All right, you're going to come down, rock, circle. This is where you're going to get really long. Stretch that whole middle part of your body. Get that nice stretch. Breathing full and deep. And then back with the bend of the knees and the elbows. And then you're going to decide how you want to come up to hands and knees. I'm just pressing myself up. I'm going to get a little quick drink. And then I'm going to get a blanket down and press back into that child's pose. So you do that. Oops, my mat. You do what feels good to you. Rest in that child's pose. Use those blocks if that's what feels good to you. Get that blanket down so you've got some cushion for your knees. Walk those knees as wide apart as feels good. Stay connected to your breath and your body. Inhaling and exhaling. Notice how you feel. Do you feel different? Do you notice if you feel different from when you started? Remember to keep cultivating the witness, the observer, not the judge. All right, eventually you're going to pull yourself up. Come into that stable table so those knees come right underneath those hips. Those hands come right underneath those shoulders, and you are coming into that stable table. Hopefully this shirt is not taking you away from that. I'm not hyperextending the elbows. I'm keeping the shoulders out of the ears, and I'm going to do that teeny tiny pelvic tilt a few times to find that place of support. And then I'm going to do that teeny tiny shoulder squeeze and unsqueeze, finally pressing through, pulling that back nice and flat. And then your cat and cow is more in the middle back, inhaling and exhaling, so you get that movement and that spaciousness in the middle back. Breathing full and deep, keeping the weight on the top part of the hand off of the wrist part of your hand, staying lifted, not hyperextending those elbows. After a few breaths, pause, and then let yourself come back in a child, resting down, inhaling and exhaling. If you do feel it in your wrists, in your hands, you're never being harsh with your joints, you're always gently winding, gently stretching. Inhale and exhale. The rest is just as important as the movement. Everything matters. All the things matter. That's what you find in the yoga. The rest, the movement, the stillness, the hold, everything is important. All right, come up into that table. Make sure you've got room behind you. I am going to bring my hands down on blocks just because it helps to, for me, my arms are just so short, I just feel like I get lost. But you're the one that judges. You might not like up on blocks. You really got to activate that shoulder girdle. I don't want it to hurt. All right, so you're pressing into that table. Like I said, make sure you've got room behind you. You're not right up against a wall. You're going to start with that left leg, keeping those hips even. So both front pockets pointing to the floor, back pockets stay pointing to the sky. Keeping that left knee bent, bring that left heel up to the sky. And you might have to take a gander back there to make sure that the foot is lined up, so it's not like in this cockeyed weird position. You need to know, or I want you to know, where your foot is. And so keep that awareness on that leg, and then don't hurt yourself when you do that. But then in this position, keeping those hips square, all you're doing is this little pulse. Inhale and exhale. You want to keep bringing that left knee, try not to bring it out to the left. Try to keep pulling it into the midline. It takes a lot of work. Inhale and exhale. Try to get as high as you can. Try to keep that right shin right up against that right back of that thigh. All right, you're going to keep it lifted and then let it go behind you and then swing it to the right. So now bring the toes down, and then I want you to keep those hips nice and square, and then look over your left shoulder. Inhale and exhale. So you get a nice stretch. And then take that left foot and bring it now so it's right behind your left hip. And then gently do a few little rocks over those legs, getting that stretch down the back of that left leg, and then let that left leg come meet the right leg. Walk those legs as wide apart as feels good. Bringing the weight up off your arms, settle back into a child. Notice how you feel. Breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. And then up into your table. Remember, you're always in charge of what feels good to you. Same thing, other side. Keep those hips square. Press that right heel, that right sole of your foot up to the sky. Take a gander back to make sure that that right knee is pulling to your midline. It has a tendency to pull out to the side. Just do a few gentle pulses. You're really trying to hold yourself in your trunk. If you feel this in your low back, then you're not putting the weight, you're not putting the work down into the butt. That's where the work needs to be happening. It's not a very big move. It's a little move, but it's so effective. All right, you're going to let that Right leg extend. You're going to let those toes swing to the left. Inhale and exhale. And I think I had you look over the wrong shoulder. Sorry, but it's okay. You're still getting a good stretch. I think I had you look, I don't know. It seems like I already looked this way, but I don't know. Then bring that right foot behind you. Sorry if I mess it up. And then let yourself do a few of those rocks just to bring that rocking up over that front, those front limbs. That is so good for you. And then bring yourself down, resting completely in your child. All right, back up into that table position. Um, you're pressing evenly down. I'm going to sneeze, I think. You're pressing evenly down into the floor. Keep that right arm down. I'm going to bring those left hands to dance right behind those left ears. And then keeping my navel anchored to the floor, I'm going to gently pull my left breast and left shoulder to the left. My heart is twisting to the left. And then I'm going to duck down that left elbow under between that right hand and that right knee. I'm not coming all the way to the ground. And then I'm going to bring that left hand down. Same thing, other side. The weight is not all on that left arm. You're holding yourself in your trunk. You're keeping your navel anchored. And then on that shoulder, I can feel that in the shoulder. So I'm going to come down off the block. That might help. Inhale and exhale. Couple more. Ooh, that shoulder. And then bring yourself back into that place of rest. Coming back into your child, taking the weight off of your hands. Now, breathe here. Let yourself come back into that place of support. We're going to go to downward dog. You come up into your downward dog when you're ready. Holding yourself in your trunk. Your limbs are merely propping you up. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Find the balls of your feet, not your toes. Of course, you can stretch your toes or up onto your toes, but this is a hinge because you're hinging and you're then propping yourself up with your limbs, but you're holding yourself in your trunk, keeping those knees bent. Inhale and exhale. Find that length down your side body as well as your back and your front body. Keep pulling the tail and the blades down. Keep lifting the heart and the navel up. Eventually, you're going to decide, do I want to come down to hands and knees and step up, or do I want to walk up to the top of my space from my downward dog, coming into that place of supported forward fold. Keep those knees bent. Keep those toes from doing any work. You're just going to dangle, sway, whatever feels good, using support or not. Once you're done with your movement, you're in that forward fold, make sure you've got support, like whether it be blocks or a chair, or you're going to bring yourself up to planting your hands right above your knees. You're going to take an inhale from that forward fold up into that flat back. Exhale back into that forward fold. Inhale halfway into that lifted flat back, halfway up, and then bring yourself down. Now, if you feel dizzy, do not come up in that great big reverse swan dive. Come up in steps, and then lifting into as much of a back bend as feels good, And then hands show up at your heart, navel, one of each, out to the side, and you find yourself in your mountain. So bring those feet, those balls and those heels right underneath those hips. And you are pressing down evenly, lifting your delicate digits, spreading them wide. And then your kneecaps are coming up into your thighs. You're keeping your knees nice and bent and protected. And then you're doing that pelvic engagement where you're dropping that back body and activating the muscle and then you're lifting that front body to find that place of support. So navel dimples down, you are in that solid rooted down position, and then navel dimples up, you are light, and it should feel like you're floating right above your lower body, there's a lift that you feel lifting you in that front body, but then you also feel that tethering of your back body. You're trying to bring the crown of your head, you're actively pressing it up to the sky as you actively bring your tail down to the floor. And this is mountain, and you're just finding your breath here in this place. Practice this all the time. Find yourself standing in your body, your whole entire body. Pressing down to find that support, and then lifting up to find that space and that freedom and that stretch. And then if you are not at the front of your space, find yourself towards the front. We're going to move with intention through some sun salutations, lifting and reaching. Keep those girdles engaged. Come into that back bend as much as feels good. And then exhale, you're going to swan dive. Pull those hands to your heart or reach wide, keeping those knees bent into that forward fold. Lift up halfway, flat back, back down to that forward fold to step back into that plank, knee down plank. Remember, you can come from table down to the floor. You're going to come to the belly. If you only want to do baby cobra, keep those elbows really close. If you want to lift up, still keep those elbows really close. Lifting up, keep that lower body nice and heavy, and then decide, how do I want to go to my downward dog? Do I just want to lift, curl my toes and lift? Do I want to lengthen down? And then take your time, make your way to the front of your space, whether you come through the table or up through walking, forward fold, lift up halfway into that flat back, back down for the toes, reach back up above your head, keep those girdles engaged, keep lifting that front body, keep bearing down with that back body, stretch, and then hinge forward as you swan dive into that forward fold. Lift up halfway into that flat back, and then back down into that forward fold to step back into that plank, that knee down plank. Keep that shoulder girdle engaged as you lower down into the floor, and then still keep that girdle engaged as you lift up into your cobra, your up dog, and then stay with that awareness of how your trunk, those girdles are holding you as you come into that downward dog. And then make your way, or you're just going right to child because you never have to go to downward dog. Make your way to the front of your space, coming into that forward fold. Lift up halfway into that flat back, back down for the floor. Reach back up above, taking up all that space. Remember, if you feel dizzy, you don't have to do the great big reaches up. Coming forward, you're hinging. Keep lifting that navel into and that heart up. Forward fold, lift up halfway. So even in this position, you're lifting that navel, lifting that heart. Come back into that plank, that knee down plank. It's harder to feel your body to be in that position that it needs to be in up in that plank, but you can pull that tail down and lift that front body up. All right, rest here in this downward dog, 2 to 3 breaths, and then make your way to your child, resting completely. I'm going to get a little drink on the way. Inhaling and exhaling, staying with your breath, how it feels to be in your body. Breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. So, after resting in a child, take your time to come into a downward dog or a table. We're going to come into a three-legged dog or a three-legged table, lifting that right leg. Make sure you don't kick anything. Inhale and exhale. Bring that right foot up between your hands. Remember, it doesn't have to look like what I'm doing. You can be through table. You're going to smear that back foot down. Try to keep your hips even. So this means keep your back pockets even to the back of your space and front pockets even to the front of your space. Remember, the toes are not doing the work. The balls are doing the work. And you're lifting up into that warrior one stance. And of course, if you don't like your back foot smeared down, if it bothers your ankle, if you're not that open or flexible there, and that's something that I had to work on, so know that it can happen. You can lift that heel because that is then maybe this more stable for you. All right, hands come right to where your tail would be, or right into your pretend back pockets, not hurting your elbows. You're going to hinge over that front right leg. Try to bring that right shoulder to that right knee. Hinging down. Try to keep those hips even. Inhale and exhale. Bring those arms down on either side and then lift yourself into a warrior two. So now, and you might need to rearrange your legs. I need to move my feet a little bit. So that's how it helps to stay lifted up off your limbs, to then come down into your warrior two. We're going to hinge into that side angle. Remember that you can bring that block into that place. That upper arm goes wherever, whether it's up or forward, or maybe gently down your back into a gentle bind. You're never hurting yourself. All right, lift into your warrior two. You're going to look down at that right foot. You're hinging over that right leg. Pop that left heel up. I brought that leg up forward, that foot up forward a little bit, and now I am standing on railroad tracks. Right foot and left foot are on railroad tracks, and I am pressing evenly through both glutes to find that stability. And then keeping that navel anchored, I'm going to rotate the heart to the right. Inhale and exhale, stay with your breath. And then bring that right hand down, and then bring that left knee down, and then walk that right foot over to that left side. Right knee down by that right hand. So right foot by left foot, right foot by left hand, right knee by right hand. You're in a pigeon posture. If you don't like pigeon this way, you could always come to a seat or to come onto your back. We're going to hinge forward. So we just gave that right leg, because we did all that warrior series. We did that humble warrior, and then we came up into warrior two. Well, we did warrior one and then humble warrior. And then we came into warrior two, and then we did that side angle hinge. And then we came into the runner's lunge, and then did the middle back twist, and then came to the pigeon posture. So that right side has just had a lot of stuff happen to it. So breathe deep and full. Notice how you feel. Stay with your breath. Keep lifting your navel into your heart. Keep lifting your heart up to basically underneath your chin. So lift your heart into up higher. It's all about that lift. Your crown, your heart, your navel. Not your nose though. Don't turn your nose up. All right, we're going to come up into, there's a variety of ways to come out of this. I'm going to come into a three-legged dog again, curling the back toes, sending that right leg up, and then bring that right leg down to rest next to the left and pause in that downward dog. And then I'm going to rest down in child for a breath before we move to the other side. Also, then I can move so I can still say face you, which is what I want to do. So we're going to come into that three-legged dog, bringing that left leg up into the sky. So this is all about the other side. Inhaling and exhaling. I'm going to bring that left foot up between my hands. It doesn't have to come in that one fell swoop. You can do a couple steps up from table. I'm going to smear that right foot down. Remember, you don't have to. So when I smear down, I'm going to line up my front left heel then with my back right archer heel. Make sure the toes aren't doing the work. And then lifting into the warrior one legs. Keep pulling with that right leg back. You have to keep pulling that right hip forward. And then at the same time, you got to pull that left hip forward. So this is where you can play around with bringing those hands into those back pockets and then hinging, because that's what you're doing, is you're coming into that humble warrior hinge over those warrior one legs. So that right hip is coming down towards the floor. Inhale and exhale. So look how your whole right leg is supporting you as you're pulling. It's starting with at the top too, right? The butt and the hip flexor. All right, you're going to lift yourself, let those arms go to come into that warrior two. And so you might need to move and then settle into that warrior two. Make sure you're pressing through that pinky toe side of that foot. Here's where we're going to hinge into that side angle. So you bring that left side down, whether you rest that left arm on that thigh. Remember, you're not putting all your weight on your limbs anyway. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Lift yourself. This is where you're going to come around to, and this is a great place for blocks to help you find that place. And I'm not putting all my weight on these blocks. See, if you're putting imprints into your blocks, then you're putting too much weight. So I'm going to start with that twist. That right hand is down, that navel stays twisted, and then I lift that left side. And then bring yourself around to then drop that back knee. I have to bring my stance up a little bit. So now that left foot is going to walk to the right side. That left knee is going to come down on the left side. I am going to curl those right toes, move that right leg to a better positioned place. You are always in charge. And then I'm going to hinge down over my blocks on my elbows, breathing full and deep. I can feel the top of my right knee on the floor. I am not dumping down on my left side. That's what people tend to do, is dump down. You want to stay lifted and you're holding yourself in that lower trunk. Your low back should feel nothing. Your low back should be protected. And you're protecting it by pulling that tail down in any position you are in. Inhaling and exhaling, stay with your breath. All right, you don't have to come back into the same position to reset. Unless you want to, unless that's what you need. I'm actually going to lift and then dump and then bring that back leg and come onto my bottom and reset this way with a little windshield wiper back and forth, and then just seated, noticing how my body feels from all that opening. If you are doing that three-legged dog and then coming into regular dog and then coming down into child, take your time. Do that, please. We'll all meet eventually. If you're on your back, you can stay on your back. If you are seated or in downward dog, just come to your back and then The next stop is relaxation. If you want to spend some time doing some stuff that feels good to you, I would recommend a heart opener. In order to get that heart open, you've worked up all that oxygenated blood, and now spend some time, doesn't have to be a long time, on lifting that rib cage up a little bit higher in your body, and then settle into relaxation. So if you've got 5, 8, 10 minutes to lay in relaxation and just let yourself just be there to soak up and have those last deposits into your muscle memory, it's so worth it. You're not wasting time. The same goes with sitting in meditation. Now is the perfect time for you to sit in meditation. You've churned a bunch of stuff up. It's kind of like you're shaking that snow globe, and now you're sitting and you're letting it settle. And maybe things won't settle in the same place, and that might be okay. So, right, just become aware of what you notice. Thank you so much for joining me. Please take care of yourself. Namaste. Take care. Bye.